Welcome to Breaking News to Trading Moves. We've got some materials in front of us focusing on a pretty specific event in the biotech sector.
That's right. And our goal is to walk you through the latest development with Ultragenyx and its drug, Setrusumab. We'll look at the clinical data and then, try to identify which companies might be beneficiaries and which ones face setbacks.
And the main focus here, the real takeaway for you, is this difference between improving a biomarker, something like bone mineral density or BMD, and actually achieving the outcome that matters.
Reducing fractures.
Exactly. Reducing fractures. That distinction seems to be at the core of the market's reaction.
It's the whole ballgame in late-stage trials. And we need to look at this specific outcome to understand how it influences trading moves across the rare disease space.
Okay, let's start with the central piece of news then. It's about Ultragenyx, ticker RARE. They reported results from late-stage studies of Setrusumab, that's also known as UX143.
And this drug was targeting osteogenesis imperfecta.
Which most people know as brittle-bone disease.
Right. And for the company, the outcome was difficult. The phase 3 study didn't meet its primary endpoint, and that endpoint was very clear.
Which was what, exactly?
It was defined as a statistically robust reduction in the annualized clinical fracture rate. And that was compared to either a placebo or the standard care, which is bisphosphonates.
So here's the confusing part. The materials point out that the drug did show improvement in bone density and BMD.
Yeah.
Usually that's a good sign, right? But the market reacted very quickly and shares dropped.
And this is such a crucial distinction for you to understand in biotech. BMD is what we call a surrogate marker. It suggests the drug is having a biological effect. The bones look denser on a scan. But for regulators, for physicians, and especially for patients with this condition, success is judged on hard clinical outcomes. Put simply, it's about fewer fractures. If you can't show that, you have a major problem for getting the drug approved and sold.
So even if the scans look better, if the patient is still breaking bones, it's not a real benefit.
Exactly. A denser bone that still fractures doesn't move the needle. The market saw that risk become a reality.
The company says it's now analyzing the full data set and looking at operational and cost adjustments.
Which tells you they're in damage control. But for investors, the questions are already flying. Was the drug's mechanism not right for this, or was there an issue with the trial design itself?
Let's get into that fallout. When a high-profile, late-stage trial doesn't work out, it definitely makes investors take a harder look at the whole sector.
Let's start by categorizing the losers, beginning with the companies that felt the most direct impact.
Okay, so that's loser category 1, the sponsors.
Right. For Ultragenyx, rare R, this drug Setrusumab was seen as a core part of its future value. This outcome means the market has to reprice its whole pipeline. It introduces a lot of uncertainty.
And what about Mereo Biopharma, MREO? They're listed here as well.
MREO is Ultragenyx's partner on this. They license the rights to the drug. So while their direct exposure might be smaller, the failure of a key partnered asset still hits their valuation and, of course, their future revenue potential from that deal.
Okay, so that's the direct impact. Now let's talk about the sentiment spillover.
Yeah, that brings us to the second category of losers. Single asset and catalyst-dependent small-cap biotech.
This is where investor psychology really comes into play. One company's phase 3 failure makes the market demand a higher standard of proof from everyone else.
Precisely. It hits smaller companies that are heavily reliant on just one upcoming clinical result, or maybe ones that are struggling with their cash one. When a more established player like Rare misses, investors just get nervous about execution risk across the board.
So why is a company like Rocket Pharmaceuticals, RCKT, on this list? They're focused on gene therapy. That seems pretty different from this monoclonal antibody.
In the short term, the market doesn't always make that fine a distinction. The common link is the high-risk, high-reward model of rare disease development. RCKT and also Solid Biosciences, SLDB, they operate in a space that depends on these transformative results. A failure anywhere in the rare disease world just raises the general perception of difficulty.
So it's less about the specific science and more about the business model's risk profile.
That's it. The market is basically asking, if a company like Rare can miss, who else could? And that leads to selling pressure.
Okay, that makes sense. That brings us to the third group of losers. This is the endpoint reality check. This impacts other companies in bone metabolism development.
This news just dials up the skepticism for any new programs focused on bone health, where the main evidence so far is just improvement in those surrogate markers, like BMD.
Because now everyone is worried about whether those markers will translate into actual fracture reduction.
Exactly. The bar has just been visibly
And
raised.
which companies are feeling this?
The materials point to Ascendis Pharma, that's ASND, and Radius Health, ticker RDUS. Their programs might be different, but they now face that same challenge, proving they can affect patient-relevant events, not just lab metrics.
Now, we should point out something with Radius Health. We've got RDUS listed here as a loser because of its pipeline, but we're going to see them again in the winners column.
And that's a perfect illustration of how the market segments these things. Investors are penalizing the risk in the RDUS development pipeline, while at the same time rewarding their existing products, which now face less competition.
Okay, so if capital is moving away from these riskier assets, where is it going? Let's turn to the other side of the trade. Who gains when a new challenger doesn't make it?
We can start with the companies whose market position is now more secure. This is winner category 1, bone health incumbents. The status quo holds.
It's logical. If a promising new treatment can't show it reduces fractures, doctors are just going to stick with what they've been prescribing.
Right, it protects the market share of the established leaders. The timeline for a new disruptive competitor just got pushed back.
This reinforces companies like Amgen, AMGN, and Merck MRK, and as we just said, Radius Health, RDUS, because their existing products are now better protected.
Their current revenue streams are safer today than they were yesterday.
Okay, next up, a category that benefits from the old standard remaining the standard.
That would be winner category 2, generics and broad pharma suppliers. Think of it as the bisphosphonate backbone.
The fact that the Ultragenyx trial used bisphosphonates as the comparison is pretty telling.
It is. It reminds everyone that these therapies are the foundation of real-world care for bone fragility. When a new, expensive innovation fails, it tends to strengthen the position of the lower-cost standard therapies.
Because they're the known quantity, reliable and affordable.
And that benefits the companies that supply these treatments. Companies like Teva, Tevia, and Viatris, VTRS. The stability of their portfolios gets a small boost.
All right, the final category is about where the investment money flows. The rotation from uncertainty to something more secure.
This is winner category 3, diversified rare disease leaders. It's about a rotation to de-risked pipelines.
When the risk of a single asset company becomes so clear, like what just happened to rare investors, look for diversification.
They want companies with multiple programs in the works and, very importantly, established revenue streams that can absorb an R&D failure. It's a classic flight to quality.
Their success isn't riding on one single trial outcome.
And that's why you see attention turn to companies like BioMarin, BMRN, and Vertex Pharmaceuticals, VRTX. Both have robust pipelines, multiple shots on goal.
They're seen as more mature, more stable.
Exactly. In a market that just got a very harsh lesson in late-stage clinical risk, EMRN and VRTX look like safe harbors.
So to bring it all together, this whole event is a clear example of how surrogate markers like bone density just aren't enough in drug development.
The ultimate measure is patient benefit, like reducing actual fractures.
And for you, the takeaway is really that the market's reaction isn't monolithic. It's not just about the one company. It's about their partners, their peers with similar risks, and, on the flip side, the competitors who are now in a stronger position.
The market has to ask, was the trial flawed? Or is the biology just too complex for this particular approach? And the answer to that determines where the money moves next.
So a final thought for you to consider. Beyond these short-term trading moves, how do failures like this influence the bigger strategic decisions at venture capital firms and large pharma companies?
Do they start to demand evidence of these hard clinical outcomes much earlier in the development process? And if they do, does that actually slow down the overall pace of innovation?
That was today's look at the transition from breaking news to trading moves. Thank you for providing us with these materials.
Before we conclude, we must mention that this conversation is purely based on the opinion of the author of the material we reviewed. This is not financial advice or buy or sell recommendations.